The gravel crunched under my bare feet as I ran toward the empty parking lot, clutching the friendship bracelet my sister Madison had made for me just 3 days earlier. The buses had already pulled away, taking the last group of campers home for the summer, but my family's silver SUV wasn't there. I was 16, standing alone in the Montana wilderness, watching dust settle where my parents' car should have been parked. They're probably just running late, I whispered to myself, the same lie I'd been telling myself for the past 2 hours. Deep down, I knew better. The signs had been there all week during visiting day. Mum's tight smiles when she looked at me, Dad checking his watch every few minutes, my younger brother Jake avoiding eye contact entirely. Madison had hugged me goodbye that morning with tears in her eyes. "Take care of yourself, Helena," she'd whispered, and now those words felt like a warning I should have heeded. Camp Wildwood stretched behind me, nestled between towering pines and Mirror Lake. For 6 weeks, this place had been my sanctuary. I'd learned to kayak, won the archery competition, and made friends who actually listened when I spoke. But sanctuary meant nothing when you had nowhere else to go. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. "We've made a difficult decision. You're old enough to figure things out on your own now. Don't contact us." The phone slipped from my trembling hands, clattering against the gravel. That was it. 26 words to end 16 years of what I'd thought was family. "Miss, you okay out here?" I spun around to find a boy about my age walking toward me. He had dark hair that caught the late afternoon sun and concerned brown eyes that reminded me of warm coffee. His camp counselor shirt was wrinkled, like he'd been working hard all day. "I'm fine," I managed, though my voice cracked on the words. I knelt to pick up my phone, grateful for the excuse to hide my face. "Doesn't look fine to me." He crouched down beside me, his presence oddly comforting. "I'm Logan. My dad owns this place." "Helena." I straightened up, clutching my phone. "I'm just waiting for my ride." Logan glanced at the empty parking lot, then back at me. "All the families picked up their kids by 3. It's almost 6 now." The gentleness in his voice nearly broke me. I'd been holding myself together through sheer stubbornness, but kindness from a stranger was threatening to unravel everything. "They're not coming," I admitted, the words falling out like stones. "My family, they left me here." Logan's jaw tightened. "What do you mean, left you?" I showed him the text. His expression shifted from confusion to anger, then to something I couldn't quite identify. Determination, maybe. "Come on," he said, standing and extending his hand. "Dad needs to know about this." I hesitated. Taking his hand felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging that the life I'd known was really over. But what choice did I have? The alternative was spending the night alone in the woods. His palm was warm and calloused from outdoor work. As he helped me up, I caught a whiff of pine and campfire smoke clinging to his clothes, scents that would forever remind me of this moment when my old life ended and something new began. We walked toward the main lodge in silence. The building rose before us like something out of a fairy tale, all rustic wood and stone with smoke curling from the chimney. Through the windows, I could see families inside finishing their goodbyes, children clutching art projects and friendship bracelets, parents looking tired but happy. "How long have you been coming here?" Logan asked as we climbed the front steps. This was my first time. My parents thought I needed to learn independence. The irony tasted bitter in my mouth. Guess they were right. Logan paused at the door, turning to face me. "Listen, Helena. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I promise you this. You're not alone anymore. My dad, he's good people. He'll figure something out." Something in his voice made me believe him. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was the way his eyes held mine without pity, just honest concern. Either way, I nodded. The lodge's interior was warm and inviting, with exposed wooden beams and stone fireplaces. Framed photos lined the walls, Decades of camp memories, smiling faces, adventure and friendship frozen in time. I wondered if I'd ever smile like that again. "Dad!" Logan called out as we approached a man behind the front desk. He looked like an older version of Logan, with the same kind eyes and weathered hands of someone who'd spent his life outdoors. "What's wrong, son?" The man, Mr. Rivers, according to his name tag, looked between Logan and me with immediate concern. "This is Helena. Her family. They abandoned her here, left her behind when everyone else got picked up." Mr. Rivers' expression hardened. "Show me." I handed over my phone with shaking fingers. He read the text twice, his frown deepening with each word. 16 years old, he muttered more to himself than to us. Jesus Christ, what kind of parents? He stopped himself, probably remembering I was still there. But I appreciated his anger on my behalf. It felt validating after hours of wondering if somehow this was my fault. "All right, Helena." Mr. Rivers handed back my phone, his voice gentle but firm. "First things first, you're staying here tonight. We'll get you fed and settled, then figure out next steps in the morning." "I don't have any money," I said quickly. "I can't pay for—" Did I ask for money? His tone was kind but brooked no argument. "You're 16 years old and you've been abandoned. Money is the last thing I'm worried about right now." Relief flooded through me so suddenly I almost started crying again. For the first time since reading that text, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely doomed. "Logan, take her to cabin 12. It's empty and cleaned. Get her whatever she needs from the supply room." Mr. Rivers turned back to me. "Are you hungry?" I realised I hadn't eaten since breakfast, too nervous about pickup time to manage lunch. "Starving." "Good. Dinner's in an hour. After that, we'll talk about what comes next." As Logan led me toward the cabin, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the lodge window. I looked exactly like what I was, a scared, abandoned kid with nowhere to go. But beside me, Logan's reflection showed something different. Purpose, like he'd found something worth protecting. "Thank you," I said as we walked along the path between cabins. "Don't thank me yet." Logan glanced over at me, and I caught something in his expression that made my breath catch. "We're just getting started." The cabin was small, but cozy, with 2 bunk beds, a dresser, and a window overlooking the lake. As Logan gathered supplies, sheets, towels, toiletries, I sat on one of the beds and tried to process what had happened. My parents had thrown me away, just discarded me like I was nothing. But sitting in that cabin, watching Logan move with quiet efficiency to make sure I had everything I needed, I felt the first spark of something I hadn't expected. Hope. Maybe being abandoned wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was the beginning. The dining hall buzzed with the voices of the remaining staff as they cleaned up after the last day of camp. I sat at a corner table picking at a plate of spaghetti while Logan and his father discussed my situation in hushed tones nearby. Every few minutes, Logan would glance over at me with that same protective look that was starting to make my chest tight in ways I didn't understand. "We'll need to contact Child Protective Services in the morning," Mr. Rivers was saying. "Can't just ignore this." "What if they put her in the system?" Logan's voice carried an edge of worry. "She'll get bounced around foster homes until she ages out." "Son, we can't just..." "Actually, you can." I set down my fork and walked over to their table. "I heard what you're talking about, and I need you to know something. I turn 18 in 4 months, December 15th. CPS won't do much for a 17-year-old who's almost legal." Mr. Rivers studied my face. 4 months is still 4 months, Helena. I've been taking care of myself for years anyway. The truth spilled out before I could stop it. My parents. They checked out when Madison was born. I raised Jake, did the grocery shopping, made sure everyone had clean clothes. The only reason they sent me to camp was because Madison complained I was too controlling. Logan's jaw clenched. So they punished you for being responsible? They wanted me gone. The words hurt less now, like speaking them was pulling poison from a wound. Mum got pregnant again last month. They're starting fresh with a new family. The silence stretched between us until Mr. Rivers cleared his throat. Well then, looks like we need a different plan. He stood up and walked to the staff bulletin board, pulling down a flyer. We're hiring winter caretakers. 2 positions, 1 for maintenance, 1 for guest services. Housing included, decent pay, and it runs through spring. Dad, she's 17, Logan said quietly. She's 17 and homeless. Sometimes you bend the rules. Mr. Rivers handed me the flyer. Question is, are you willing to work? Because this isn't charity. You'd earn your keep. I looked at the job description, my heart hammering. Guest services meant dealing with the few winter visitors who came for snowshoeing and cross-country skiing. Housing meant a real roof over my head, and working meant I wouldn't have to depend on anyone's pity. I can do this, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm good with people and I learn fast. What about school? Logan asked. I can test for my GED. I was already ahead in most subjects. I'd always been the smart one in my family, the one who helped Jake with homework while my parents watched TV. This could work. Mr. Rivers nodded slowly. All right, we'll try it for the winter, but Logan's staying too. Someone needs to handle maintenance. And, frankly, I think he's invested in making sure this works out. Logan's face flushed red. Dad, I was already planning to stay, remember? College can wait another year. Right, college. Mr. Rivers winked at me. Nothing to do with wanting to help a certain young lady get back on her feet. Can we focus on practical matters? Logan muttered, but I caught him sneaking a glance at me. Over the next 2 weeks, camp transformed around us. The summer chaos gave way to quiet efficiency as the seasonal staff packed up and left. Logan and I fell into a routine, mornings spent learning the winter booking system and guest protocols, afternoons working on cabin maintenance and winterization. He was a good teacher, patient when I struggled with the ancient reservation computer, and encouraging when I successfully fixed my first leaky faucet. But it was the small things that made my chest flutter. How he always made sure I ate lunch, the way he'd appear with hot chocolate when I was shivering on outdoor tasks, how he listened when I talked about my dreams of maybe going to college someday. You're smart enough, he told me one evening as we sat on the dock watching the sunset, smarter than half the kids I went to school with. Smart doesn't pay tuition. Scholarships do, grants do, you just have to know how to apply. He pulled out his phone and showed me a bookmarked page. I've been researching. There are programs specifically for kids who've aged out of difficult family situations. I stared at the screen, hope blooming in my chest. You researched this? For me? Of course I did. He looked genuinely confused by my surprise. Helena, you can't just survive. You deserve to thrive. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. In my family, I'd been the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who kept everyone else functioning. But I'd never been the one worth investing in. Why? The question came out smaller than I intended. Logan turned to face me fully, his brown eyes serious in the fading light. Because you're extraordinary and you don't even know it. Because you've been taking care of everyone else your whole life and someone should take care of you for once. Because... He stopped, colour rising in his cheeks. Because what? Because I'm falling for you and I want to see you succeed. The words hung between us like a bridge I was afraid to cross. In my old life, boys had liked Madison. Pretty, bubbly Madison who never had to worry about anything. I was the serious one, the one who scared people off with my intensity and my responsibilities. Logan, I know it's complicated. I know you're dealing with a lot right now, but I needed you to know that someone sees your worth. He reached for my hand. Tentative. Someone believes in your future. His fingers were warm against mine, calloused from work but gentle. I thought about all the boys from school who'd never looked at me twice, too busy chasing girls who giggled and flirted instead of solving their problems. I have never been anyone's first choice before, I admitted. Then, everyone else is an idiot. Logan squeezed my hand. You're not just my first choice, Helena. You're my only choice. The kiss happened naturally, soft and sweet as the sun disappeared behind the mountains. When we broke apart, I realised something had shifted inside me. The bitter anger I'd carried since reading my mother's text was transforming into something else. Determination. I want to apply to colleges, I said suddenly. Real ones, good ones. Logan's smile could have powered the whole camp. Then, we'll make it happen. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone? He stood and pulled me to my feet. Come on. Dad's got a whole library of college guides in his office. We're going to find you the perfect school. As we walked back toward the lodge, my phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Mum's showing off her ultrasound pictures to everyone. Says she's finally getting the daughter she always wanted. I'm sorry, Helena, I tried to talk them out of leaving you. I showed Logan the message. Instead of the crushing pain I expected, I felt only a distant sadness for the girl I used to be, the one who would have begged them to take me back. Their loss, Logan said simply, then deleted the message for me. Ready to plan your future. I looked up at the lodge windows glowing warm against the darkening sky, at this boy who saw potential where my own family saw burden, at this place that had become more home than anywhere I'd ever lived. More than ready, I said and meant it. The old Helena had died in that parking lot 2 weeks ago. This new version was just getting started. November. Snow blanketed Camp Wildwood the morning I received my GED scores in the mail. My hand shook as I tore open the envelope, Logan hovering beside me in the lodge kitchen, where we'd been making breakfast for the weekend cross-country skiing group. Well, Logan's voice was tight with nervous energy. I passed. The words came out as a whisper. I scored in the 97th percentile. Logan whooped and spun me around, nearly knocking over the coffee pot. I knew it! Helena, this is incredible! Mr. Rivers appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. When Logan showed him my scores, his weathered face broke into a proud grin. Outstanding. Now let's talk about those college applications. We spent the evening at the kitchen table surrounded by forms, essays, and scholarship applications. Logan had printed out everything: financial aid documents, deadline calendars, even a spreadsheet he'd created to track my progress. Watching him organise my future with such careful attention made my throat tight with emotion. University of Montana has a full-ride scholarship for students from challenging backgrounds, he said, highlighting another opportunity. And Colorado State has an excellent program for first-generation college students. Logan. I touched his hand to still his frantic note-taking. Why are you doing all this? He looked up from the papers, confusion flickering across his features. What do you mean? You were supposed to start college this fall. You deferred a whole year to help me figure out my life. The weight of his sacrifice had been growing heavier each day. Don't you want your own future? Logan set down his pen and turned to face me fully. Helena, you are my future. Everything I want involves you being happy and successful and knowing you're capable of anything. He gestured to the application spread before us. This isn't charity or pity. This is investment in the person I love. The word love hit me like a physical force. We'd been dancing around deeper feelings for weeks, but hearing it spoken aloud changed everything. You love me, I whispered, completely, stupidly. From the moment you picked up that phone in the parking lot and refused to let abandonment break you. His voice was steady, certain. I love your strength and your intelligence, and the way you make everything better just by being there. I kissed him then, pouring months of gratitude and growing affection and fierce hope into the contact. When we broke apart, Mr. Rivers was clearing his throat from the doorway. Not to interrupt this touching moment, but, "Helena, you've got a call. Says it's your sister." My blood turned to ice. Madison hadn't contacted me since that text about the ultrasound. I took the phone with trembling fingers. "Hello? Helena, thank God." Madison's voice was strained, tears evident even through the phone. "I need your help." "What's wrong?" "It's Jake. He's been acting out since you left. Getting in fights, skipping school. Yesterday, he got arrested for shoplifting. Mum and Dad are talking about sending him to military school." I closed my eyes, picturing my little brother's defiant face. Jake had always been sensitive, the kind of kid who needed patient guidance rather than harsh discipline. Military school would crush his spirit. "What do you want me to do, Madison? They made it clear I'm not family anymore." "Please, Helena, he keeps asking about you. He blames himself for what they did. Says if he'd been a better kid, they wouldn't have needed to get rid of you to make room for the new baby." The knife of those words twisted deep in my chest. My 13-year-old brother was carrying guilt that belonged entirely to our parents. "I can't fix this, Madison. I'm 1,000 miles away with no car and no money to travel." "Actually," Logan interrupted, clearly having heard enough to understand the situation, "you do have a car and money for gas." I stared at him. "Logan, no, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." He was already reaching for his keys. "If your brother needs you, we go get him." "We? You think I'm letting you handle your psychotic family alone?" Logan's jaw was set in that stubborn line I'd learned to recognize. "Besides, Jake deserves to meet the guy who's going to take care of his sister." Mr. Rivers stepped forward. "Take the truck. It's better in snow. And take this." He pressed a credit card into my palm. "For emergencies." "I can't. Family takes care of family, Helena. You're family now." The drive to Colorado took 18 hours, with Logan and me switching off every few hours. We drove through the night talking about everything, our childhoods, our fears, our plans for the future. By the time we reached my hometown, I felt like I was arriving as a completely different person than the girl who'd left 4 months ago. Madison met us at a coffee shop near the high school, her eyes red-rimmed and anxious. She'd grown taller since summer, but she looked younger somehow, burdened with responsibilities that should have been mine. "He's been suspended for 3 days, she said, sliding into the booth across from us. "Mom and Dad won't even talk to him. They just locked him in his room and said he can think about his choices." "Where are they now?" "Doctor's appointment for the baby. They'll be gone for 2 hours. Madison glanced at Logan, curiosity flickering through her worry. "Is this your boyfriend?" "Logan." He extended his hand with that easy politeness that made everyone feel comfortable. "Nice to meet you, Madison." "You're really taking care of my sister." "She's taking care of herself. I'm just lucky enough to be along for the ride." Madison smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her. "Good answer." We drove to the house I'd grown up in, and my chest tightened at how small and shabby it looked compared to my memories. The yard was overgrown, paint peeling from the shutters. My parents had always been better at making babies than maintaining homes. Jake answered the door with hollow eyes and a fresh bruise on his cheek. When he saw me, his carefully constructed teenage indifference crumbled completely. "Helena," his voice cracked, "you came back? Just for you, kiddo." I pulled him into a fierce hug, feeling how thin he'd gotten. "Madison says you've been having a rough time." "They said," his voice broke, "they said they had to choose between keeping you or having enough money for the new baby. Said I was too expensive too, with my ADHD medication and therapy." White, hot rage blazed through me. They'd made a 13-year-old boy feel responsible for their abandonment of their daughter. Jake, listen to me. I grabbed his shoulders, making him meet my eyes. What they did to me has nothing to do with you. Nothing. They threw me away because they're selfish, not because you cost too much or weren't good enough. But if I'd been better, then they still would have abandoned me. Because that's who they are, not who we are. I looked around the living room, taking in the mess and neglect. Pack your things. You're coming with us. Helena, Madison said quietly, you can't just take him. Watch me. I was already heading for the stairs. Logan, help him pack. Madison, write a note explaining that Jake is with me and safe. This is kidnapping, Madison protested, but she was already looking for paper. This is rescue, I corrected. Jake, do you want to come live with me and Logan at the camp? My brother's eyes lit up for the first time since I'd arrived. Really? You'd want me there? I've wanted you with me since the day they left me behind. The truth of it settled in my bones. We're family, Jake. Real family. And real family doesn't abandon each other. 20 minutes later, we loaded Jake's few belongings into the truck. As we pulled away from the house, I saw my parents' car turning onto the street behind us. Floor it, I told Logan. He grinned and hit the gas. Whatever you say, boss. In the rearview mirror, I watched my childhood disappear forever. But in the passenger seat, Jake was smiling for the first time in months, and Logan's hand was warm in mine. I wasn't running away anymore. I was driving toward everything that mattered. My phone rang non-stop for the first 100 miles out of Colorado. Mum, Dad, even Madison calling frantically. I finally answered on Madison's 5th attempt. Helena, you have to bring him back, she pleaded. They're talking about calling the police. Let them. I glanced at Jake in the back seat, already looking healthier just being away from that house. I'm 18 in 3 weeks. Jake can petition for emancipation with me as his guardian. I've been researching the laws. Logan shot me an impressed look. You've been busy. I've had good teachers. I squeezed his hand. Madison, tell them if they want Jake back, they can come get him themselves, face to face. No lawyers, no police. Just them explaining to their son why he's not worth keeping. The line went quiet. We all knew they'd never do it. Confrontation required admitting fault, and our parents had never been capable of that level of honesty. They won't come, Madison said finally. You know they won't. Then Jake stays with people who actually want him. I softened my voice. Madison, you're always welcome too. When you're ready, I can't leave yet. Someone needs to protect the new baby from turning out like them. My heart broke for my sister, trapped in the same cycle of responsibility that had defined my childhood. But I couldn't save someone who wasn't ready to be saved. We drove through the night again, Jake curled up asleep in the back seat while Logan and I talked about the practicalities of suddenly becoming guardians to a traumatized 13-year-old. By the time we reached Camp Wildwood, we had a plan. Mr. Rivers took one look at Jake's bruised face and hollow eyes and simply nodded. Welcome home, son. Logan, get him settled in the cabin next to yours. Helena, we need to talk about legal guardianship procedures. The next few weeks blurred together in a whirlwind of legal paperwork, therapy appointments, and Jake slowly coming back to life. He threw himself into camp maintenance work with the same desperate need to prove his worth that I recognised from my own first days there. But gradually, as no one criticised his efforts or made him feel burdensome, he began to relax. I like it here, he told me one evening as we sat by the fire pit. Logan's teaching me to build things, and Mr. Rivers says I have a natural talent for woodworking. You always were good with your hands. I watched him whittle a small bird from a piece of pine, his movement steady and sure. How are you feeling about everything? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes I'm angry that it took them abandoning you for me to realize how messed up they are. But mostly, I'm just grateful you came back for me. I'll always come back for you, Jake. That's what real family does. On my 18th birthday, Logan woke me with coffee and a stack of college acceptance letters that had arrived over the past week. University of Montana, Colorado State, even a partial scholarship to Northwestern that made my hand shake. Pick one, he said, settling beside me on the cabin steps. Logan, I can't leave Jake. He's just started feeling safe here. Who says you have to leave him? Logan's grin was mischievous. University of Montana has excellent programs for both of us. I can finish my forestry degree, you can study whatever makes you happy, and Jake can attend the local high school. Mr. Rivers is talking about opening a satellite camp near Missoula anyway. I stared at him, hope and disbelief warring in my chest. You'd do that? Reorganize your entire life around mine and Jake's? Helena. Logan took my hands, his expression serious. You and Jake aren't disruptions to my life. You are my life. Everything I want to build with you. Before I could respond, Jake appeared around the corner of the cabin, carrying a wrapped package and wearing the biggest smile I'd seen from him in years. Happy birthday! He thrust the gift into my hands. I made it myself. Inside the wrapping was a carved wooden frame holding a photo of the three of us from the week before. Logan and me laughing while Jake made bunny ears behind our heads. But it was the inscription carved into the frame that made tears spring to my eyes. Real family Jake Rivers. Rivers? I looked between Jake and Logan in confusion. I asked Mr. Rivers if I could take his last name when the adoption papers go through. Jake explained, suddenly shy. If that's okay with you. I know it's not really yours yet, but... Yet. I turned to Logan, who was fishing something small out of his pocket. I was going to wait until graduation, he said, dropping to one knee in the morning snow. But Jake's right. It should be official. The ring was simple. A small diamond on a silver band that caught the winter sunlight like a promise. Helena, you saved yourself. Then you saved your brother, and somehow in the process you saved me too. Will you marry me? My answer came out as a sob. Yes. God, yes. As Logan slipped the ring onto my finger, Jake whooped and tackled us both in a hug that sent us sprawling into the snow, laughing and crying and holding on to each other like we'd never let go. 6 months later, I stood in the University of Montana admissions office, submitting my enrollment forms for their pre-law program. My dream had evolved from simply surviving to actively fighting for kids like Jake and me, kids who needed someone to advocate for them against systems that failed them. Logan was starting his senior year in forestry, and Jake was thriving in his new high school, where his teachers actually understood ADHD and helped him succeed instead of punishing him for being different. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Mom and Dad had the baby, another girl. They named her Helena. I showed Logan the message, waiting for the stab of pain that never came. Trying to replace you? He asked. Too late for that. I deleted the text and put my phone away. I'm irreplaceable. As we walked across campus hand in hand, Jake running ahead to explore the student centre, I thought about that scared 16-year-old girl standing in an empty parking lot, convinced her life was over. She'd been right, in a way, that life had ended. But this life built on chosen family and hard-fought love and the unshakable knowledge that I was worth fighting for, this life was just beginning. 2 years later, I stood in a courtroom wearing my best dress and Logan's engagement ring, arguing my first case as a legal intern. The client was a 17-year-old boy whose parents had kicked him out for getting arrested. Your Honour, I said, looking directly at the judge, abandonment is not discipline. A parent's job is to stand by their child through mistakes and help them become better, not to discard them when they become inconvenient. I won the case. The boy got the help he needed instead of jailed time. After court, Logan was waiting outside with Jake, who was now 16 and applying to colleges himself, with the same fierce determination I'd learned from being thrown away and choosing to build something better. "How'd it go, counsellor?" Logan asked, pulling me into a kiss. "We won." I looked at my little brother, tall and confident and loved, at my fiancé who'd chosen to build his entire future around making sure I succeeded, at the life we'd created from the ashes of abandonment. We all won. My parents had thought throwing me away would make room for the family they really wanted. Instead, they'd given me the freedom to build something infinitely better. And every day I thanked them for it.